when I don't eat, I feel way better than after I eat. Always.
You mean when you're hungry versus right after you eat?
What I mean is like, I feel the best with the most energy during times where I haven't eaten yet during the day.
It's hard for me to say, I guess, because that would be the morning and I eat in the morning.
Like, but I'm you think about like, I try not to eat till 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, okay. I usually will eat too much and then I'll just feel like shit afterwards.
Sure, yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA strategy show presented by Prize Picks. 10-game slate today. Happy to have all of you guys with us. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's good, brother? How you feeling?
Pretty good. We haven't done a show in a while, so glad to be doing a show again. Glad to be back.
Yeah, dude. We haven't done a strategy show in a while together. We definitely did.
Show in a while together.
You feeling better?
Yeah, I'm good. Negative COVID test yesterday, so I told Josh, like, it got in my system, kicked my ass for like 4 days, and got the hell out. So can't complain, I guess.
Was it COVID?
Yeah.
Man, you've been down with the Rona a couple times the past year, so.
Yeah, no more vacations.
Nah, you can't do that. You can't. Don't be that guy.
No, I know, but like,
don't live in fear.
No, it's not fear. It's annoyance that like, I keep getting sick on vacations.
That's true. Gabriel, what time do you wake? I wake up at like 6:30 in the morning. And then, yeah, I do coffee, but coffee doesn't count. Coffee has like 1 calorie in it. Coffee is like 99% water. So yeah, do a little coffee, but yeah, glad you're feeling better, man. Yeah, no, for real. I try to so I'll take the dog out for a walk. Sometimes I wait in the winter until it's a little warmer because it can be real cold around here early in the morning, but I try and do like 2.5 miles with her. And then I'll try and work out before that, because if I work out before that, then the body temperature's up and I'm not as cold going out there,
right?
And then I'll try and eat around like 1 o'clock. Oddly enough, it makes you feel better. I know it sounds crazy. My sister did like a 5-day water fast and she was trying to convince me to do it. I was like, you're fucking crazy, dude.
That's insane.
You're insane.
No, I'm happy if I actually like manage to stick to like a 16-hour or do like an 8-hour fast, like
the 16 and 8,
yeah.
Like the intermittent fasting.
Yeah, which I don't like. I don't do it religiously. I don't like, ideally I do it, but it doesn't actually happen that often.
Yeah. I do it. I try and do like 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But if I want to eat, like usually, we go out to breakfast on Sunday morning, I'm not going to be like, no, sorry, I'm fasting.
Right. My problem is just like, I keep shitty hours for it. Like, cause I get up in time for this show, but then I just end up being up until like between midnight and 2. And it's like, if I stop eating at like 8 or 9, like I just end up being hungry.
Yeah. DCB water fast should be great for your kidneys. No, you drink water. You're not fasting from water. You only drink water. You don't eat. That's what that is. But anyway.
I'm sorry, Josh killed sex. What is wrong with it?
What?
Could be Travis said we did MFK on the process show. Josh married coffee, fucked drugs, and killed sex.
Wait a second. Coffee is the first one out the door. That is insane.
It's drugs for me.
Drugs is the first one. Wait, you kill drugs?
I mean, if we're not including alcohol as a drug, I don't do any drugs.
But I would just do drugs in the morning instead of coffee. Like, all right, do I have any?
I feel like it would be frowned upon if I started doing the show on drugs every morning.
But are there repercussions? Like, do we suffer withdrawal? Do you, is it just something like you have? And if you have it, like, you don't have to worry about money or anything. And you don't, because if that's the case, coffee can get the hell out of here, man.
Coffee has to stay.
What? Oh my God. Coffee to me is just a means to staying the course.
Coffee changes
wild.
Coffee changes my entire mood.
Alcohol is definitely a drug, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I would still get rid of drugs, but
okay. I promise you, drugs will change your mood a lot more than coffee.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be allowed to do shows anymore.
Yeah, that's well, that's why I said there can't be any repercussions. Like, am I able to function normally? then oh my God, are you kidding? Dude, that's the easiest question. If I'm able to function normally and there's no repercussions, I'm marrying and fucking drugs. By the way, I do not do drugs anymore, but I can tell you the reason I do not do drugs anymore is because bad things happen when you do. If you're like, hey, you could do this with no problems whatsoever, oh my God, sign me up.
Sure, yeah.
You'd stick with coffee.
Kilby Travis said, I love that Adam didn't consider alcohol a drug. Like, normally people say drugs and alcohol separately. Like, I realize that's incorrect, and alcohol is a drug, but it needed a clarification. But either way, I think drugs is the one that I'm getting rid of. Why is Josh here?
Wait, does he want to chime in on that? Why are you here?
What's up?
Why are you here right now?
Because we got to talk about this. This is important.
No, we
stuff.
don't, dude. We got a 10-game slate.
You got plenty of time. You don't have a hard out.
And why does
I'm right
Jordan
here? I have the right three
Jordan,
by far. By far. I'm right.
by killing sex?
Yeah. It's not, you can see it in chat. It's not all, I don't get to never culminate.
Can you still whack off?
I'm saying yes. If that's the case, then I'm keeping it around.
What if you can't?
Well, then coffee's got to go.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay.
But if you could let rip on your own, then I'm booting sex. I can't get rid of coffee, and drugs are great.
But
You don't even
coffee-
drink.
but-
You drink decaf. What do you mean you can't get rid of coffee?
No, I also drink decaf.
No,
But also, I just want the coffee flavor in general.
wait, but there's no way you're getting rid of drugs then.
No chance. But you
Okay.
can't marry drugs. Because if you marry drugs, well, that leads down a dark path.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, so banging drugs is basically like you're just having casual affairs with them.
Yeah, the way that I operate my life right now.
All right. You guys are nuts, though. Coffee's got to be the first to go. Technically, coffee is a drug because caffeine is qualified as a drug.
Well, you're not going to get a Schedule 1 booking.
In that case, I have to keep drugs.
I mean,
that puts me in a rough spot if we're calling caffeine a drug, because
well, coffee's a drug if you're a real pussy. I mean, let's be
right.
honest.
So like, but that paints me into a corner because now I need coffee and drugs to take up two spots that I'm not killing.
Right.
Just start cranking it, man. You know, you're about to agree with me. Just do it.
All right, Josh, go do some drugs and pump off. We got to do a show here. All right.
Now I got to pump first and then do the drugs.
Okay. Well,
I appreciate that I'm back on a Tuesday morning show while Josh is still here.
I love that Josh just jumped in and it wasn't accidental either.
Once I saw it getting talked about, I needed to defend myself.
Did you
I
tell
couldn't just
Jordan
let
you
this
were
happen.
coming in, or did you just jump in?
I was like, I can come in if I need,
Okay.
or if I need to. And he was like, if you want to.
You definitely need is the word that we should be using here. Definitely
Look,
needed.
it's better than this slate.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interest. Coffee's got to go. So do you, Josh. We'll see you back here in a little bit. Check out Josh's process show. Check out his No House. See how good am I, man? Check out his No House Advantage prize picks, all that good stuff, and never shake his hand. We'll see you. We'll see you
Later,
soon.
boys.
Later. All right. Let's talk some basketball. This is ridiculous. Talk some basketball. You guys way off base. 10 games. We saw yesterday just the insane ownership going to Detroit because everybody was out. Are we going to see any, with what we know right now, is there any massive value popping up that's going to just lead us to a similar situation where you can just play all of the high tier guys if you want as well?
I don't know, dude. It's 10 in the morning. I don't know.
I mean, Chris Dunn's at 65% right now. Taylor Horton Tucker, because Clarkson and Sexton are out. He's at 40%, but he's not exactly cheap. LeBron's out for an extended period of time. D'Angelo Russell's doubtful. Like, there are actually a lot of significant issues going into this slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 10-game slate, and it's late February. There's going to be value.
Let's make it happen then. Oh, and by the way, hit that thumbs up if you guys haven't done so yet. We're at 50 thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Show some love around here. I know we got off on the wrong foot, maybe the right foot. Who knows? Yeah. And leave a comment down below. We try and very least read all of them, respond to all of them. And if you're listening in podcast form, show us some love, man. Show us a little love. Subscribe to the pod. Tell your friends about the show, the channel, the podcast, whatever it is. Leave a review. All that stuff truly goes a long way, and we appreciate you guys for it. So let's dive into it. Chicago at Toronto. Chicago just beat the bricks off Brooklyn the other day. That was outrageous. But we've got them back in the mix today. 4.5 point dogs, 220.5 point total. There's going to be a lot of value that opens up on this slate. 10 games, like you said. There already is or are a lot of spots that are opening things up for higher price guys. Is Chicago one of those teams that, outside of maybe a little bit of DeRozan at his discounted price point, kind of falls by the wayside today?
Yeah, I think so. It's mostly just a contrarian tournament team. The nice thing about 10-game slates is you can use very good players to be contrarian, kind of like we were talking about with Miami last night. But you're just not really going to be building around any of this. DeMar DeRozan, a slight exception, pulling 10% ownership on DraftKings, 8% chance of being optimal. 7,700 is a very cheap price tag for him going up against his former team. But there's just going to be so many good plays on this slate that he looks fine. The rest of the team, though, really no ownership coming into anybody. And I don't have a huge issue with that. If you want to use Vucevic at 8,800 or Levine at 8,400 to be different and, get a very high upside player into your lineup at low ownership, there's no problem with that. But they're just not guys that have a high enough chance of success or look that much better than players around them that you're going to be prioritizing them.
Yeah, pretty much. Because we're going to get to some teams where it's like, all right, well, play a lot of these guys today. And this first game, I just don't know how much of that there is. On the Toronto side, too, I mean, Jakob Poeltl getting a little bit of love here. Understandably so. The minutes have been kind of all over the place since he's jumped into the starting lineup. I mean, 37 against Orlando and then 30, then back-to-back games with 27 minutes. Of course, that last one was a 25-point blowout or whatever that was. But, I mean, is it reasonable at this point just to project Poeltl for around 27, 28 minutes?
I think like 28 to 30 makes sense, and It makes him look okay. At 6,100, that's certainly a decent price tag. Favorable matchup. The issue is just that on a 10-game slate, you're going to have so many centers to choose from. We do have him going a bit under-owned on DraftKings right now. 10% chance of being optimal at 5% owned. So it does look like a pretty interesting tournament play. The playing time has been appealing, like you said. 27 minutes last game, but lost about 4 minutes to garbage time. Or sorry, about 5 minutes to garbage time. So was looking like he was going to play around 32 in that game. Knowing that he can get those minutes is certainly appealing. We know he's a very good point per minute guy. So I like him in tournaments, but again, just somebody that's going to be difficult to build around because if you start saying, I'm playing a ton of Jakob Poeltl, you have to start naming the centers that you're not going to be playing a lot of. And obviously there's going to be a lot of guys that look similar to him.
All right. Well, the next game where you've got the Lakers and Memphis, this is where things are about to get interesting. So no LeBron James today, they're saying he's going to miss extended time.
Yes.
D'Angelo Russell's doubtful to play, and Anthony Davis is probable. Now, Anthony Davis pulling only 19% right now. Understandably, it's a 10-game slate. It's not exactly the best matchup against Memphis, but this definitely opens a lot up. From Vanderbilt, newly acquired Vanderbilt over the last several weeks. Malik Beasley, who's never seen a shot he doesn't like. Dennis Schroeder's sub 5K. Anthony Davis's low 10K price range. There's so many different directions you can take, even if it's not the perfect matchup for the Lakers. Losing LeBron and likely D'Angelo Russell just frees up everything for this Lakers squad tonight.
Yeah, it opens up a lot because you're talking about increased opportunities and increased playing time for guys. Anthony Davis clearly is going to look very good without LeBron. Without LeBron or Westbrook on the floor this year, Davis has put up about 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. No real reason to think that changes, going forward. It's only a 212-minute sample size, but it's not like that's a crazy number compared to what Anthony Davis normally does. So obviously he's going to look really good. He is center only on DraftKings at 10-3. That's why you're only getting 19% ownership. If he had power forward eligibility, you'd certainly be getting more, but he looks really good. Not a great matchup, like you said, but obviously a very, very good player. And then you just get a bunch of cheap pieces that you can look to with LeBron out as well. Jared Vanderbilt coming off of a ridiculous game where, you can't really ever expect him to go for near 50 fantasy points, but he played 27 minutes as a starter. He's 4,100. You could certainly see a little bit more playing time from him potentially without LeBron. He's getting a bunch of ownership. Malik Beasley at 4,500. They always need his shooting, but they're going to need it even more now with LeBron out. There should be more minutes available for him. He played 34 and a half minutes last game, despite not even closing. So the minutes look really good for him at a pretty cheap price tag. Schroeder should see an increased role at 4,900. He's pulling 26% ownership. He's played 224 minutes without LeBron or Westbrook this year, about a fantasy point per minute. Similar rates if you ignore Westbrook and just take LeBron off. So he's going to look like a good value. There should be more minutes available for Rui at 3,700. He only played 11 minutes last game, so certainly a risky option because we don't know exactly where he falls in the pecking order at this point. You got 20 minutes last game for Troy Brown. You got 27 for Reeves, only 11 for Rui. Seems like maybe the Lakers figured out that Rui is not the guy that Lakers fans claimed he was when they traded for him. But with LeBron out, there's certainly minutes available. And at 3,700, there's at least a path to success. So I think, Davis is the top priority in terms of raw points, but with it being a 10-game slate and him being center only, it's tough to call him a true priority. But you get value here where Vanderbilt, Beasley, Schroeder, I think, are the priority value plays.
Okay. Could be Travis said if Beasley doesn't knock down a bunch of threes, you're getting 13 fantasy points.
That might be optimistic.
Yeah, he's very much scoring dependent. And how many minutes do you think we could see for a guy like Beasley today?
Mid-30s.
Yeah. So if you're getting, if you're getting mid-30s in minutes from him at 4,500, probably a risk that you want to take.
Yeah, I mean, projection-wise, you probably go low 30s, but still, like the point stands.
Yeah. Do you have? I know it's early in the morning, and we still have live before live deeper dive. A whole lot of stuff. News is going to break, but do you have like priorities here as far as these guys go? And as far as the Vanderbilt, Beasley, Schroeder, are there any of them that you feel a lot more confident in than the other, or do you just intend on having a lot of all of them?
I think I'll probably have a lot of all of them. Vanderbilt and Beasley are both scary, just kind of for opposite reasons. Beasley because he is so scoring dependent, and Vanderbilt because he does not score. But they're just so cheap, and the minutes should be there. For Schroeder, you get a higher usage guy, 21.5% usage rate without LeBron on the floor this year. About a fantasy point per minute. So I think that he's the one that I feel like the most comfortable with, but he's also the most expensive. So you're getting a little bit less ownership, a little bit lower optimal percentage there.
What about on Memphis where, pretty much everyone healthy outside of Steven Adams, who's already been sidelined for an extended period of time?
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that looks a lot more normal, not as much ownership coming in. Ja Morant leading the way, and deservedly so. Obviously a really good option at 10-1. The only problem you run into with Morant compared to other pay up options is that typically he is going to play fewer minutes. In competitive games, you're getting like 33 to 35 minutes from Morant, whereas most 10K plus guys in competitive games are playing like 36, 37, 38. But a really good point per minute guy, really good matchup. He's pulling 11% ownership, and that seems deserved. So I like getting there. Beyond that, though, I don't think there's a ton that stands out from Memphis. You do have them at home, which we know is good for Jaren Jackson's defensive stats. He gives you a nice ceiling at 7,700, but I think that's pretty much a correct price tag. Same goes for Bane. You have a really cheap Dillon Brooks at 4,200, but I've said it on a lot of shows recently. That's really where he should be priced when Bane, Jackson, and Morant are in. There's that narrative about Dillon Brooks chucking up a bunch of shots, but he really doesn't when all three of those guys are in. You need at least one of them out for Dillon Brooks to turn into the Dillon Brooks that we like in fantasy. So there's nothing that really stands out to me here outside of getting to Ja.
How about Washington, though? Kristaps Porzingis doubtful to play today. That makes things interesting because so many other times where we've seen one of these big three guys ruled out, you get kind of overpriced on whether it's Kuzma, Porzingis, or Bradley Beal or something like that. But not exactly the case today. I mean, plus you're facing an Atlanta team that's top 10 in pace, bottom 10 in defensive rating. Not exactly the worst matchup that you could come across if you're Washington. Take Porzingis off the floor today, given that he's doubtful. What does that do for the rest of the team? Kuzma has a 30% usage rate with Kuzma off the floor this season, with Porzingis. Beal's at 30% as well. On a fantasy point per minute basis, Kuzma 1.12 DraftKings points per minute, Bradley Beal 1.12, and they're both in that 7K range.
Yeah, we have 6 full games where Beal and Kuzma have been in and Porzingis has been out. In those games, north of a 32% usage rate for Beal, about 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, about a 27.5% usage rate for Kuzma, a little over a fantasy point per minute. But like you said, as you get more games, you're likely to see those numbers kind of even out where they probably both come in around 30%. I expect Beal to have a little bit higher usage rate long term, but it makes both guys look good. And the pricing is certainly reasonable. 7,600 for Beal, 7,800 for Kuzma. I'm a little surprised they're pulling this much ownership on a 10-game slate, but it does make sense. Really good matchup, like you said. And the optimal percentages do sort of bear out that ownership. 21% optimal percentage for Kuzma at 28% owned, 24% optimal, 24% ownership for Beal. So no real issues there. Certainly very high ceilings for these guys.
Monty Morris also questionable, so we can pay attention to that. But what about the rest of these plays in the event that Porzingis sits? Like Daniel Gafford, I know center positions are always going to be super crowded on these large slates, but he's 4,500. Avdia's 5,100. There are some spots that maybe even if you're not getting to an overwhelming amount of Kuzma and Beal, you could look to some of the cheaper options here that benefit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it helps solidify minutes for Daniel Gafford as long as he's able to avoid foul trouble. Coming off of a game where he played 31 minutes, lost a little bit the garbage time. If, knowing he has the potential to approach 30 minutes at 4,500 certainly makes him look very good. You do see a bigger gap in ownership percentage and optimal percentage for him than you do Beal and Kuzma. That has a lot to do with the position. There's just so many good center plays that can win out, but Gafford's going to project as one of the better values at 4,500. You're likely to get Avdia in the starting lineup again at 5,100. Disappointing game last time out, but playing time was still there. Played about 27 minutes, lost 3 to garbage time. Also didn't close the first half because of fouls. You could easily be getting like a 32 to 34 minute game from Avdia at 5,100, which makes him look like a decent value. If Morris is in, he's only 4,400. Don't hate that play. Obviously not going to be that confident in it, but he is somebody you could use as like a pivot to the Lakers guys, for example. If you need to save some ownership instead of going to like a $4,500 Beasley, you can go to a $4,400 Morris for like 1/8 the ownership. If he's out, you get DeLon Wright at 4,500 looking pretty good. There's going to be a lot to like from this Washington team.
We had a super chat too from Omar. When building lineups, what's wrong with forcing in low-owned guys like Jimmy yesterday? Adam said he enters what he gets, but if structure is good, why not? I guess he's saying like if construction is good, why not?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, you don't want to force guys in, but the part of this about like me entering what I get, like I have an entire process to make it so that I get lineups that have a couple low-owned guys in them, so like I don't really know how to answer the question. Like, you don't want to just arbitrarily decide like I'm jamming in this one low-owned guy, because I mean, really, typically the reason guys are low-owned is because there are going to be better either point per dollar plays or raw projected players around them. Ownership is basically just a function of how easy guys are to get into lineups based on their projections. So if you're just forcing somebody in, you're kind of arbitrarily taking a step that you don't need to take. But like, yeah, I mean, when I say I get what I get, like, it's not like I'm just clicking optimize and playing those lineups. Like, I have an entire process to make it so I'm getting lineups that are contrarian enough.
Right. And also, you could look at like yesterday and Jimmy Butler, but that's just a recent example.
Well, and I mean, even with that, like the same logic on Jimmy Butler being a low owned play applied to Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. And like, if you forced in Bam Adebayo, or if you forced in Tyler Hero, you're having a really shitty morning.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Like, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Like, I get, so like, that's a good example is, if you're playing multiple lineups, you don't want to just be saying, and let's say, like yesterday, Jimmy Butler, Hero, Bam were all very low owned. They were all good contrarian plays. You don't want to just be forcing in Jimmy Butler because like you have a feeling it's Jimmy Butler day or something. You'd rather be, if you're going that route, going to the Miami guys, you'd rather be getting to like all of them in separate lineups, because they're all functionally the same play. So that's sort of, yeah, you don't want to just like arbitrarily say like, oh, it's Jimmy Butler or it's Tyler Hero or it's Bam.
Do you like anything from Atlanta today outside of like Trae Young? Because all of these high priced guys are going to get some ownership.
I mean, I like Young, 9,500, pulling 12%, similar to John Morant. No issues there. I like the $5,700 price tag on Capella. I think that there is a pretty nice ceiling for him in this spot. Only played 20 minutes last game. You obviously have to contend with Okongwu stealing minutes. You know, that was a competitive game against the Nets. They ended up winning by 2. Okongwu played 28.5 minutes. Capella played 19.5. But the upside's there for him at 5,700. When he does play well, you can get those 28 minutes. So not somebody that I'm prioritizing, but I do think it's a reasonable price. Same can be said for DeJounte Murray at only 7,900. The Fords, Collins, and Hunter are both cheap, but probably not totally necessary on the slate. So I think it's just another team in a good spot where, you know, Trae Young is the closest thing to a priority. And then you're just using Capella, Murray, to a lesser extent, Collins and Hunter to just sort of differentiate some lineups.
Talking Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Curious to know at what point in the first quarter Giannis leaves this game. I mean, at this point, what was I think back-to-back games he's left, and then he's played the next game. Actually, did he miss one before the All-Star break? I can't even remember at this stage.
I don't remember. I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know that he was supposed to be out a little while, and then he just came right back. But he's good, so that's all that matters. The problem is that none of these guys, like Drew's not cheap. Chris Middleton is cheap on paper, but then you look at the playing time and he's, you know, still at that 25-minute cap. He hasn't played more than that since he returned. And Giannis is extremely expensive. He's always a phenomenal play, but there's a lot of other high-priced guys out there who are missing other players on their teams today. I guess the simplest way to put this is, do you want to get to some Giannis just because he's 4% right now? Like if he's really that low owned?
It's still tough. I mean, the thing is, you know, obviously we have a bunch of games to talk about still, but just from what we've already talked about, ignoring positions, but you have Anthony Davis, $2,000 less expensive without LeBron. You have Ja more than $2,000 less expensive. You have Young way more than $2,000 less expensive. It just becomes really difficult to get to Giannis. And it's highlighted in the boom bust tool as well. Like obviously if you get to a 4% on Giannis, great. You know, it's always nice when you get like the best point per minute guy at no ownership, but we have him with a 3% chance of being optimal. It's, you know, that's going, that points you towards the fact that right now his salary is either problematic or just unnecessary. One of the two. It just is a low probability play as good as he is. He is correctly priced on a slate where a lot of people are underpriced. So it makes it tough to get to. And I don't see anything else from Milwaukee either. I mean, Middleton's up to 6,400, Drew's up to 8,700. And now you have Giannis back. It's the first team I think where I've just really not been interested at all.
Yeah. And there's already a few teams we talked about where it's only maybe one or two players
Right.
that is interesting. On the other side, what do you make of Nick Claxton's minutes right now? Is there something that we can glean from the playing time that he's seen recently? Because it's been like, forget about the Chicago game. I'll toss that out the window, 22 minutes, but is there, and I guess fouls against Miami, 5 fouls. I'd have to go back and look how much that impacted it. But he did play 30 minutes in that 2-point loss to Atlanta last game. I only asked because he's 6,200. He is a quality per minute player. And he's getting around 8% right now, which seems about reasonable at that price point. What do you think we should reasonably expect for minutes from him?
I think 28 to 30 makes sense. The Miami game that you mentioned, he did have some foul trouble. He picked up 3 fouls in the first 4 minutes of the second quarter, so he didn't play the rest of that half. But yeah, I mean, I think expecting around 28 to 30 makes sense. Did you say we had him at 8% owned? He's not showing up in the boom bust tool, but
yeah, on the ownership projections, we have him at 8.8 right now.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. You know, it's just another high upside mid-range center option. There's no shortage of those, but we do know that Claxton's a good point per minute guy. If he gets those 28 to 30 minutes, it's going to look good. Not the most appealing matchup here, but you know, 6,200 is a reasonable price tag for him. He's probably the first guy I get to from Brooklyn, but this is another team that I don't think I get a lot of. I certainly get more than Milwaukee, but I don't think I get a ton.
Yeah, Ben Simmons has already been ruled out, by the way, but with the amount of minutes he's been playing, I don't think that that's going to have a massive impact on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just looking at both sides of this game, I don't really like. We have 5.5% going to Dorian Finney-Smith to DFS right now. Around 5% going to Cam Thomas. Spencer Dinwiddie's just virtually unowned here at a 7K price point. There's better options and better matchups. It feels like a pretty tough team to get to, right?
Yeah, like the nice thing about the Nets, if you want to get to like one of them, and I'm not including Claxton in this because it doesn't apply, but there is a lot of usage and a lot of opportunities to go around. So it's a spot where, from a medium projection standpoint, nobody really looks good, but you're going to have those games where Mikal Bridges just takes over, or Spencer Dinwiddie takes over, or Cam Thomas takes over. So they are high upside, particularly Thomas, Dinwiddie, Bridges, and to some extent Cam Johnson. They are high upside contrarian plays, just because we still don't have a great feel for how this Brooklyn team is going to allocate, their offensive production. You had the one massive 70-plus fantasy point game from Mikal Bridges. He's played 137 total minutes since joining the Nets, has a 27.5% usage rate. That probably comes down going forward. But the point being, you got 41 minutes last game from Dinwiddie. You got 38 from Bridges. You got 36 from Cam Johnson. You got 29 from Cam Thomas. The minutes are there for these guys, and there is an offensive void because this team is now just Spencer Dinwiddie and a bunch of 3-and-D guys. So there's no clear answer to like who is always going to be the highest usage guy. It does open up some volatility and some upside, but this is sort of like the Miami example yesterday. I like the idea of any of Thomas, Dinwiddie, Bridges, Johnson as contrarian plays in tournaments, but I'd be lying to you if I told you like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to be Mikal Bridges' game, or this is definitely going to be Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, it's probably going to be one of those guys, but I have no idea which one.
Yeah. Right. And maybe we don't really need to guess all that much.
Right. It's just, it turns into, if you're playing multiple lineups, any of those guys are good ways to differentiate, where you say, all right, I have 6 of the best plays on the slate. Now let me throw in one of these Nets guys and hope that they shoot well.
Pretty much. Yeah. And that's the one thing, like our lineup generator is always going to give you, like, cause you're going tournament lineups and you're looking at the lineup generator, you're always going to get, is that my stream that's buffering, or is that me, or is that the stream? Okay. That's fine. As long as it's on my side, we're good. Not sure what that is, but yeah, just looking at it now, the first lineups I pull up, you're always going to get some lower owned plays. Just going through all of these right now in the lineup generator, there's a 2% guy. And of course, this is all lineups. I'm not just going with contrarian builds, which if you wanted to, you could do that. I'm not sure you need to though, because a lot of these are going to throw a lot of contrarian pieces in there anyway. But yeah, just sorting through this, there's so many different, because I see people talking in chat right now about how they can't get, Fantasy Cruncher to give them some of these low owned plays. I guess that's one of the things where you try and do too much on Fantasy Cruncher, Adam, and then you just get in your own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of just comes back, like it's always really difficult to answer these questions because like every part of your process is going to have an impact. So like, I could say just increase the randomness, you'll get more low owned guys, but that's not necessarily the answer, because then you're just getting more shitty lineups. And if you don't have a good way to throw out the bad lineups, then like that's not helping you. You can, a non-perfect way to do it would be to set some sort of like max ownership percentage. But the problem with that is like, you have to have some way to figure out how to do it in a slate dependent way. You don't want to just be going in saying like max 150%, completely ignoring like the layout of the slate. The way that Omar said he did it, setting a rule for minimum 1 of Jimmy, Bam, and Hero, like that's fine going that way. But the problem is just, it's still sort of arbitrary. Like it kind of worked out yesterday because Miami was like the only team with good players that wasn't getting ownership. But like today, how do you handle that? You're just going to say, I guess you could say like minimum 1 of like every player that's 5% owned or less. But like there's better ways to do it. It's just like you have to figure out how to get everything that you're doing to come together and give you the lineups that you want.
For sure. And by the way, if you're looking for similar function as Fantasy Cruncher, of course, not as many bells and whistles, but Fantasy Cruncher is expensive. And you're playing maybe less money. Say you're even playing like $2 a day. Right now, the lineup generator half off for the first week. You're getting it $4.48 for the first week. It's less than $9 a week going forward. I've said it a million times. Even if you guys are playing like $2 a day, still more than worth it to throw this in there. Like if you're throwing 20 entries into the dime or something, or you're playing the quarter jukebox, or you're playing more. You could be playing higher stakes. You could be throwing them in the big contest, the 150 max 15, the N1, whatever it is. This gives you a ton of insight, and especially maybe you're short on time. You got a family, you got a demanding job, you got shit going on in your life. And you're like, listen, I just can't sit down and watch every show. I can't research for 4 or 5 hours a day. I can't put everything together every day. You go in here into the lineup generator. Like I said, links in the description, by the way, if you want to get the half off for the first week. You want to get, or throw it in chat as well. Dude, less than 450, you can build as many, you can generate as many lineups as you want. You can save as many of them upload them to CSV, save as many as you want, discard them, keep going. You can lock players in, you can swap players out. There's a lot of different things you can do. And we keep building on this as well. So it only gets better. And all we're doing is we're just running simulations, thousands of simulations of lineups in these contests and filtering out all of the bad lineups. So the only ones you're actually getting are the ones that we already have, simulated, projected in the top 1%. You have the optimal projection, you have ownership projection to see how chalky or contrarian you are. All of that stuff from top to bottom. I think, it's the best tool that we've made for, I won't even say the word casual players, but it's the best tool that we've made for people who might not have all the time in the world, might not be looking to spend a ton of money, and might be looking to just get good lineups without having to do a ton of the work, but also still be able to put some of their own input in as well. So check it out. Jordan has it up on the screen. Man, it looks good too. Looks good. Nice, smooth. Check it out over at Stokastic.com. But the link down there gets you half off your first week, less than $4.50. So yeah, let me know what you think. We've had some big winners too. A couple 50K wins, a couple 5-figure wins on top of that, just from using this lineup generator. If you like it, stick around. If not, you're down $4.50. All right, let's keep this one moving. Next up on the docket, Sacramento and OKC. No SGA on the one side, but let's kick it off with the Sacramento side first. Is this one of those spots where maybe you just kind of sprinkle in a little bit of Monk and Domantas Sabonis and a little bit of Kevin Huerter, but nobody stands out?
Yeah, it's another one of those teams. Sabonis clearly gives you a massive ceiling, but at 9,800 center only, it's obviously going to be tough to prioritize him when he's $500 less than Davis. He is getting 1/3 the ownership. So that's a good contrarian pivot if you need a lower owned guy in that, price range in that spot. But Davis certainly projects better. The Aaron Fox at 9,100 is a good play, but he's not that much less expensive than Trae Young. He's only $1,000 less than Morant. Those guys are going to look quite a bit better. Malik Monk, 4,900, is fine, but there's no shortage of guys in that price range that look pretty good. He is another reasonable pivot to guys like Schroeder at 25% or Beasley at 30 whatever percent. Monk is not going to project as well, but he does have the same range or similar range of outcomes at lower ownership. So it's just another team that has guys that on smaller slates you would really like. On this slate, they're kind of just tournament plays.
Thomas Ramon or Raman said, first out of 4,700 using the lineup generator, was down to my last $2. So I started using the generator and other tools and paid for themselves already. I just don't want a bunch of other people to use it. Yeah, I got you. But you know what, dude? There's so many lineups in there that this isn't one of those things where it's like you're just duping everything. Like if Adam went in there and we got 20 lineups and I got 20 lineups, you're not going to get all the same lineups in there. That's not how it works. It's not just like giving you out a lineup and everyone plays the same lineup. That would be stupid. But I do not know who, Thomas, this is not a paid endorsement. That was an unsolicited endorsement, but it makes me very happy to see that someone down to the last $2 goes, I'll try lineup generator out, and bam, hits. First out of 4,700. Let's go. Congrats, by the way, man. That's awesome. All right, OKC. So the other day, just massive chalk across the board for OKC. Some of these price points have changed, but SGA remains sidelined for this one. And at this stage of the game, we have to go back to Lou Dort, right? Because he sees a massive boost with SGA off the floor.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up a lot here, and Dort's only 5K, small forward eligible. certainly going to look like a good value option. I'm pulling up now to see how he's been in the full games without SGA. But we've seen in the past that he does get a nice bump in usage. Obviously, he's not the most efficient guy, but at that price tag, he's just not priced for the increase. He's played 5 games this year, 159 total minutes in those games where Giddey's been in and Gilgeous-Alexander's been out. 26% usage rate in 32 minutes per game. At 5K, in a good matchup, that's certainly going to look very good. Josh Giddey gets a bump without SGA, as you would expect as well. He's played 5 games without SGA. 24% usage rate, 26% assist percentage, about 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in those games. He's 7,500. You get Isaiah Joe at 4,400, who somehow managed to get their last game. He scored like 2 fantasy points in the first half, didn't start the second half, and then just went nuts off the bench, ended up playing 28 minutes. But at 4,400, assuming he starts, he should play somewhere between like 28 and 36 minutes. At 4,400, it's going to make him look like a good play. Although I do think this slate's a little bit different than the last one. On that last one, it's always risky going to these OKC guys because they just do so much random shit with their rotation. On that last slate, it was pretty difficult to find alternatives. On this slate, it's not. So I do think the 26% ownership coming into Joe is probably a little bit high, but he is likely to get enough minutes to project as a good value option.
Favorite play right now from OKC. Is it going to be Dort or is it going to be Isaiah Joe?
It's Dort.
Okay.
I just trust his minutes more.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And we've seen him in this scenario plenty of times before to know that he's like, not just the minutes, but knowing that when he's out there, he's going to be heavily involved. It's hard not to like him. I mean, right now he's one of the best options on the slate. We have him with the 5th highest ownership already. Nice optimal score. So yeah, Lou Dort looks very good. If we're moving on and talking about Denver and Houston here, Jamal Murray's questionable. I don't know, I guess you would think he would play, right? Like he just played the second leg of a back-to-back, 41 minutes in overtime.
Yeah, I never really know with Murray because he ran like he like actually just gets hurt. Like he'll you know what I mean? Though it's not like it's a rest thing. It's like you'll just get Malone coming out and being like, oh yeah, his leg's bothering him. Or whatever.
That knee's worse than we thought it was. Right. Yeah. True. And Aaron Gordon though is probable for this game. But if everybody plays, is there anybody outside of Nikola Jokic that we could even look to in this spot? And I understand it's a good matchup, but still. Yeah,
I mean, it's Houston is what makes it appealing, but you just have a correctly priced team if Murray plays. Jokic certainly happy to get there. It's another reason why it's so difficult to get to Giannis is, you have Jokic for $500 less playing the Rockets. Granted, his position is not as flexible as Giannis's, but I would get to him before Giannis. Porter at 5,700 is kind of interesting, just given the matchup. You hope you run into that game where Michael Porter just knocks down a bunch of threes, but obviously that's a low probability, contrarian play. Same goes for Jamal Murray. Nothing that stands out. I wouldn't mind getting to, in particular, Jokic, Porter, Murray, but they're all, Jokic is like 12% owned. Porter and Murray not getting any ownership. It's just another pretty much tournament team because they're healthy and a bunch of teams on this slate aren't.
The other side, you could see Kevin Porter Jr. back today as well. So
yeah, and Jalen Green.
Jalen Green's already back, right? I know Jayshawn Tate is out, but you talked about Brooklyn being maybe one of the most unappealing teams today. Not just Brooklyn, but what was it, Milwaukee as well. I think Houston has to fall in that same bucket as all of those teams that we've talked about already.
Yeah, without a doubt, which is a nice change of pace because I was getting really tired of playing Rockets on every slate.
Dude, the Şengün one was it's brutal sometimes with that guy.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had Şengün in like the $400 the other day. I was like the only person with him, and he's just smashing, and then just doesn't play the entire fourth quarter, which is awesome.
And then the game before that, he had 5 points.
Right. Yeah.
Like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say I had one of those 5-pick parlays on one of our favorite sites, and I went 4 for 5, and all I needed was Şengün over 18.5 points. But it was one where you didn't even sweat it because like everything else is crushing, but you knew that he had no chance of getting there because he had 2 points at halftime.
Right. Yeah. You pull it up like once in the second half to see if he like magically has 13, and when he doesn't, you just give up.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, especially if Kevin Porter Jr. plays, there's not really anything I like. The pricing is correct, if not too high. If Porter's in, if Porter's out, Jalen Green at 6,500, Şengün become more interesting, but still on a slate of this size, I don't think there's going to be anything that really stands out here from Houston.
I can't wait to get to this last game. Get your opinion on Damian Lillard at 18%.
So good.
What's that?
He's so good.
He's the man, dude. I said this a few years ago. You remember I said this to you as well. I think I tweeted it too, but I had said, and I got a lot of pushback on this because there's Steph Curry, there's Giannis, there's all these great players. I get it. But I said, like, Damian Lillard to me is the most exciting player to watch in basketball when he heats up. And
when he's on, and Curry's the only other one I think in the conversation.
I totally agree. Yeah.
When they are having their games, it's just so fun.
When you know that, and you could say the same for Curry, but I think Dame always kind of gets shit on from that aspect. Like, everyone knows he's amazing, but when everyone's, oh, who's the most exciting? No one ever talks about Dame. How many times have we seen Dame with like 4 minutes to go in a fourth quarter in a close game, and he brings it up the court and knocks down like 7 threes in a row? Not one time, not two, it's so many. The guy is just electric.
Right. I mean, the way I always kind of think about it is there was a stretch, I think it was like right before COVID. There was a stretch where Lillard just had one of those like 2-week periods where he just was scoring, 50 points a night. And I happened to be winning like the big DraftKings tournament, I think 2 or 3 times during that stretch, needing Dame to not score like 70 fantasy points. And he did it like every single time. But like,
I remember that, by the way.
I still enjoyed watching it, even though it was just costing me tons and tons of money. It was like, how can I not enjoy watching like what this guy's doing? It's so fun.
It was when he was dropping 80 plus DraftKings points, like 6-7 games in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember you going, well, I can't pay for him now. He's
right.
He's 12. I definitely can't pay for him now. And it just kept happening.
Right. Yeah. Because then he got up to like 11K or something stupid. I remember at least once too, like he actually had like a slow first half, and I'm like, oh, I might actually hold. And then he just comes out in like the fourth quarter and just like scores like 20 points right out of the gate. And I'm just like,
real
right.
points.
Yeah. I was like, all right, cool. We're doing this again.
I know. 71 points. 8 players have done that. Eight players have done that, and 2 of them have been this season.
Who was the other one this year?
Mitchell did it. He had 71.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember when Booker did it against, I think, Boston a few years ago. But
did Booker have an 80 spot, or was that that was a 70, right? That was
70.
A 70.
Yeah, it was 70. Kobe's the only one that's
Kobe had the 80. Yeah. And then Wilt, like, do you count it with the 100?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, in my, at least from what I can remember, Kobe's the only one with 80.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was a 70 spot for Booker. All right. We'll get there though. That should be fun because Dame's expense. Dame's almost as much as Giannis now. He's getting close. Really? Well, he's like 11.6, I think. Yeah,
he's 11.5. He's $300 less than Jokic. We have him projected ahead of Jokic. We have him projected ahead of Giannis. Dude,
Dame had a 56% usage rate last game with Simons off the floor.
Dame had 53 DraftKings points at halftime.
I know.
I kept like, it was it was dumb because it was a short slate. So like he was like 60-70% owned and like higher stake stuff. But like I had him in everything, and I kept like looking, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Dame finished with like 55. And I'm like, oh, it's halftime. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. He attempted 38 shots and was 14 for 14 from the free throw line.
He's so good.
Oh my God. I've said it a million times this year though, but do you realize how absurd it is that he's getting to the line as much as he is, and he's a 92% free throw shooter?
Right. It's just 3 points.
3 points. He could shoot poorly and still give you 16 points from the line. It's amazing. Anyway, all right, let's get off of this. We'll come back there. Where are we at now? Indy, Dallas. Is that right, Jordan? We on Indy, Dallas? Yeah. Indiana and Dallas. So you got the Pacers today going up into Dallas, 7.5 point dogs, 236.5 point total. Yeah, you want to speak of wild, anomalous performances as well. What about Miles Turner going 8 for 10 from long range the other day?
Do you remember when Vooch did that? I think it was Vooch.
Yeah.
Had like 8 in the first half or something.
Remember last year, Joval was like 7 for 7 from
that's what I was thinking of.
In the first half.
That's the one I was thinking of, not Vooch. It was the Joval first half. Yeah.
And then I think he finished with 7.
Yeah. I don't think he made any more, but yeah, it was just like, what the hell are we doing?
In the first half.
Right.
It was crazy. And I remember too, his 3-point prop was half a 3 in that game. And then he just kind of went back to doing whatever. But yeah, Miles Turner 8 for 10 from 3 a couple games ago against Boston, no less. You have any interest in him, or not because of that, of course, but him or anybody else from Indy today?
Not really. It's just another one of those healthy teams. Like if you get to some Turner in tournaments, fine. If you get to some Halliburton, great. But there's nothing that looks like an actual target.
I think you may have mentioned Vooch too, because remember there was a time not long ago where guys like Vooch and Brook Lopez, none of those guys attempted threes. And then the transformation happened like that. And now Brook Lopez is like mostly a 3-point shooter. So many of these guys knew that if they didn't evolve, they were out of the league, and they did.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a cool change, you know, again. Do you remember the preseason where Andre Drummond said he could was working on threes? That never really materialized, but
I think he'd hit a couple, but it was
but also notice who doesn't play NBA minutes anymore is
no, that's my point.
Right.
The league evolves you out of it if you didn't learn how to shoot. Yeah. Ben Simmons, but he just refused and couldn't do it anyway. Look, they thought, he would be huge, and I don't know, it is what it is. But yeah, it's funny to see. It's funny to see how over the years, and I'm talking like the last 5 years or so. You guys would be interested in this too. Go back and look at what percentage of Brook Lopez and Vooch's shots were from three, like 6 years ago, and look at it now. I'm pretty sure it was like 1% of them, Adam. And then it went up to like 30 to 40% or more. Pretty crazy. Yeah. What do you want to do with Dallas then if you're not interested in Indy today?
Not much. Luka at 12K obviously looks good. 14% ownership. He's played 4 games now with Kyrie, 34.5% usage rate, 1.46 DraftKings points per minute. So certainly a drop off in fantasy production so far, and that's to be expected, but still a very high upside option in a very good matchup against Indiana. I am a little surprised he's getting more ownership than guys like Morant and Trae Young, given how much less expensive they are, but never going to be upset about getting to Luka. I think it's pretty tough to get to Kyrie at 9,900 outside of just, large field tournaments. And then I don't really have anything else from this team.
Josh Gillum said, how is shooting more exciting than dunking on somebody's head?
Dame does that too.
I was going to say, all right. So my favorite, you and I got real deep in the Top Shot for a minute. It was Adam and I would talk about this. It was the only thing we talked about all day for like 2 months there. You remember that?
Was that during the COVID break?
I was going to ask you, I think it was 2021, like early 2020.
No, yeah. You're right. It was, because I can pick, well,
maybe not.
So I can picture being in my apartment on Top Shot, which definitely was 2021 after COVID. Yeah, it must have been 2021.
But what I was going to say, let's see. Hold on. I signed up in January 2021.
Yeah.
Right before the boom.
Yeah, you got right before. I was in before, but not as early as you. And then I held on longer, so I didn't realize a lot of my gains.
Anyway, what I was going to say is, Dame, I had my favorite Top Shot was the Series 1 rare Lillard, right? And I was like, I'm going to get 2 of these. I sold one, made a nice profit, held on to the other one. I don't even want to look where it's at now. Doesn't matter. But that was my favorite.
I think I sold mine, and like it was one. I think I sold mine during that period where like you could still sell for a nice profit, but it was getting really hard to sell.
Yes, and you needed to kind of undercut, even though you were still profiting because you got in early enough.
Right. Yeah. I think I sold it during that, so it was like I made a nice profit, but I also was just like I really actually liked that dunk and wanted to keep it.
But that's what I'm saying. How sick was you? Remember that dunk?
It
right?
it was probably my favorite. It was definitely one of my favorite Top Shot.
Me too. Ones. That one and the Kawhi Leonard Series 1 dunk over against Boston, posterized 2 defenders.
Kind of remember that one.
Yeah, well, I'll shoot it over to you. That one was sick. But
Jordan said he made 2K on Top Shot and dip. Didn't Jordan open like one pack, basically pull like the nuts and then
pulled
get out?
a LaMelo rookie?
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then sold it for like 700. Yeah. And then I think it was like 10,000 the next day. I mean, look, still made a nice profit. But he pulled a LaMelo rookie with like his second pack. Yeah. That was fun for a while though. Really was.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be back.
I was randomly looking for a picture on my phone the other day, and I happened to find a screenshot from when my moments rank account value was like $100,000 on Top Shot. And I was like, oh man, I wish I could just go back and sell it all.
No, at one point, I think yours was a lot. I think all of ours were way. I mean, Stratford's was at like 50K at one point, and he was just buying commons.
I think mine peaked around the 100.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know I had some wild stuff in there.
Because I think that's around when I hit the point where I was just like, there's no way this can go up. But also, if I sell all my shit and Lofty becomes a millionaire, I'm gonna be really pissed.
No, I sold before you did.
I know you did.
Yeah. Held on to a couple just in case, maybe we roar back, but it seems unlikely at this point.
I mean, I'm just hoping when I'm like 58 and broke, I like remember I have a Top Shot account and it's like $500,000.
I've done that with stuff before where you go back and you're like, wait a second, I have stuff in here.
Yeah.
Usually you're like, I wish it doesn't matter if I never remembered this anyway. But hey, San Antonio Spurs, Utah Jazz, there are really a handful of teams that are the most like wildly appealing today. And then other teams that just don't look that good. At the price points now, Zach Collins, mid 6K, Trey Jones might be back. He's questionable. So it's just like Devin Vassell and Romeo Langford being out right now. Is San Antonio quickly becoming one of those teams that maybe a couple weeks ago we had a ton of, and now it's just like, they don't look that great.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's still some marginal plays here. If you want to get to some Keldon Johnson, you get increased usage from him as long as Devin Vassell's out. If you want to get to some $6,400 Zach Collins, there's certainly a ceiling there. Sohan's 5K, like that's a decent pivot to Lou Dort if you need to save ownership, but Dort projects better. Trey Jones, if he's back at 5,200 would look okay. If he's out, it makes, Devontae Graham and Malachi Branham look a little bit better, but it's a good matchup here as well. It should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game, but I think salaries have just mostly adjusted for the Spurs. So if Jones is back, I don't have a ton of interest. I think Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins are the most appealing. If Jones is out, it does make, Branham and Graham look a little bit better, but they still wouldn't end up looking like priorities here.
On the Utah side too, this is interesting because Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson are out today. So Chris Dunn currently projected to be the highest owned player on the slate. He's $3,600. Taylor Horton Tucker's price continues to increase, but now Clarkson joins Sexton on the sidelines. And not just that, like you're taking a guy in Jordan Clarkson that already has, a considerable usage rate on this team. So it's not just the guards that are affected by him. It's, essentially anybody with even a modest usage rate to begin with that's going to see some of those opportunities filtered or funneled their way. I think you could make an argument for any one of Dunn, Horton, obviously Dunn and Horton Tucker, but Kelly Olynyk and Walker Kessler, but Lauri Markkanen's 9,400. That's ugly because sometimes if he's not scoring, things can go south quick. But 13%, what if we just see massive usage out of him today against the worst defense in basketball?
And I think it's likely that you will. I mean, who else on this team is going to be a really high usage guy?
Right,
Horton
not
Tucker.
Kessler.
Right, like Kessler's not. Olynyk can be, but like he's not. Olynyk's typically not going to be your like 30+% usage guy. You'll get
only if he gets super hot, and that happens on occasion. Right.
Like Horton Tucker, Olynyk, they can pick up some usage, but it should be the Lauri Markkanen show here in a very, very good matchup. Looking now to see what he's done without Clarkson on the floor this year, but obviously the highest usage guy on the team as is. And even if Clarkson were in, I'd have interest in Markkanen just because the matchup's so good, even though he is relatively expensive. But without Clarkson on the floor this year, 26.2% usage rate for Markkanen, 1.16 DraftKings points per minute. So we haven't seen a really big, we haven't really seen much of a bump in production so far. But even in situations like this, I think it's important to keep in mind that even if on average the production is going to be about the same, which is still very good, there's an easier path to that big game because when Jordan Clarkson is in, Jordan Clarkson is going to be taking shots. When Clarkson's out, it's just one less guy where like if Markkanen is making his shots and playing well, there's just one less guy to get in the way and keep him from taking more shots. So you actually don't see much of a change in production with or without Clarkson, but I think it does still sort of increase the ceiling for him. Olynyk at 5,600 looks good. So absolutely love Dunn. Horton Tucker's good. I think 40% might be a little bit high, but then again, we have him with a 49% chance of being optimal, so maybe not. Olynyk, Markkanen both look good. Kessler looks fine as well. I think Kessler is probably pulling a little bit too much ownership also, just given that, he is center only and there's so many other centers we've talked about getting less ownership.
I'll throw this out there too. It's only 56 minutes sample, but so if you were to take Clarkson, Conley, and Sexton off the floor, Markkanen was like 27% usage rate. If you also took Malik Beasley off of the floor on top of that, because you know that Beasley's has no fear of shooting whenever the opportunity arises, only 56 minutes, but Markkanen's usage rate jumps to 33.6%. Again, very small sample, but taking Beasley off where in a spot like this, he would normally, and 1.65 fantasy points per minute. That's, again, I'll say it a million times, small sample, but those are a lot of guys off the floor now that there's not much else here.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's a massive ceiling here.
Anybody else you want to hit on?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty much the starters and then nothing.
All right. Let's go to Minnesota and the LA Clippers. Minnesota. Kick it off with this one. Rudy Gobert, probable. Jalen Noel is questionable or whatever, but kind of a tough team to get to today, especially against a pretty solid Clippers defense, or at least not the worst team in the league when you're looking at a match. When you're looking at it from a matchup perspective, the Clippers are what? Better than middle of the road, top half of the league in defensive rating. They're bottom half of the league in pace. Bottom 10 in pace, matter of fact. Do you like anything from Minnesota that stands out over all of these other teams we've talked about?
No. Anthony Edwards up to 9,600. Shooting guard, small forward's nice. It's just, when you think about all the other good players in that range, it's tough to prioritize Edwards. Certainly has a high ceiling and is fine in tournaments, but outside of that, not a priority. Same goes for Kyle Anderson at 5,600. We have Gobert up to 7,700 now, so he's becoming pretty difficult to get to. It's another team where, if you get to Edwards, Anderson, to a lesser extent Gobert, fine, but I wouldn't be looking to build around those guys.
What about the Clippers, though? I mean, how do you build around this team right now?
I don't think you really can.
Or should.
Paul George, I assume will be quote unquote limited again, which I guess means like 30 to 32 minutes. He's 8,300. So like there's a ceiling for him, shooting guard, small forward. But nothing special there, pulling 5% ownership, 6% chance of being optimal. Kawhi is a bit more expensive, also pulling 4% ownership. There's no problem with either of those guys. Westbrook played a bunch of minutes in 3 quarters and then never came back last game, finished at 25 minutes. Tough to pay 7,100 for that. Marcus Morris is down to 3,600, which is kind of interesting for somebody that isn't getting any ownership and could play around 30 minutes. The problem is that Marcus Morris is competing with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Russell Westbrook for production. So, it's kind of tough to come by.
All right. Well, we got one game to go. We might be nearing the end of the show, but there's no way you're not sticking around till the end for us to talk about the Portland Trailblazers right now and this Warriors game. Also, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so. We got 600 people watching with us. And hey, if you guys are sitting here going, wow, they got ownership projections, they got the boom bust tool with the optimal lineup projection and the leverage scores and everything else on there, player projections, projected stats, all the other data that we have. On top of that, you got the lineup generator and more than one sport, right? Literally any sport out there that these sites have contests for, we have content for them. All the tools that you can imagine. Shit, you saw over the All-Star break where people are going, yeah, guys shouting out Stokastic Hall of Fame, rocking the avatar, getting up there, their free month, all that. They're going, hey, I don't know anything about NHL, but I just shipped this tournament. I don't know anything about MMA or anything about PGA, but I just won this tournament thanks to just using the tools. One way that you can get those tools is by finishing top 3 or for free, $120 value is by finishing top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more with the Stokastic avatar. Jordan and I do the Hall of Fame segment once a week. We give out some free subscriptions, right? That's for every single sport, every single tool we have on the site. Or you could sign up at Prize Picks. And especially if you're in non-legal betting states, no better way to scratch that itch, especially since it's available in a ton of states. You sign up on Prize Picks, you're already getting up to a $100 deposit bonus, 100% match. So if you deposit 50, your account says 100. If you deposit 100, your account says 200. Say you only have 20, you deposit 20, your account says 40. You got that, but you got to use the link or we can't find you, okay? If you use the link in the description or in chat, sign up on Prize Picks, you're getting a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Every tool that I just mentioned on the site for every single sport, even the ones you don't know, you're now going to be competitive because you have access to these. And hell, maybe you're playing in lower stakes contests where most people, aren't using these tools because they're not paying $120 a month for them. You don't have to. You got access to these tools in lower stakes contests too. Whatever it is that you want, we got you covered from top to bottom across the board. Check out Prize Picks. Check out all the content and videos we have there. Check out the awesome format where you're just picking player props with no juice on either side. Over or under, you say you build a 5-player lineup, 5-prop lineup. If you hit 5, you 10X. If you hit 4, you're still 2Xing, unlike traditional books. You still make money back on 3 of 5. Josh has got videos out. We got tons of content, all of our player prop tools that you need to win over there and win in DFS free when you use that link. So straight no-brainer here. If you haven't signed up yet, check it out. Prize Picks, sponsor of the Strategy Show. Let's win some money over there, sweat some of these together, and use the same tools, all these tools for DFS purposes, make some money on top of that. You're getting it for free whole month, including our premium Discord. So come check it out. If you like it, we hope you win. We want you to stick around. That's why we do this. If you don't like it, that's okay. It was free. You tried. You didn't like it. You can bounce, but you still stick around here for the free content if that's the case. Promise me that. All right. Link in the description and in chat. Portland, we talked a lot about Dame. I know he's expensive, but with Anthony Simons still out, dude, what's up?
Jordan.
What did he say?
He said Katz is pacing his room with his helmet on in anger.
Oh, God. All right. All right. So Portland Trailblazers. Portland Trailblazers.
I'm just picturing it now.
I know. Yeah. It just always reminds me of the Cartman South Park episode where he signs up for the Special Olympics.
I don't remember.
In the mirror. Have you not seen that episode?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh man, you have to go watch that.
I never like regularly watch South Park. I just like if it's on or I'm in the mood to watch it, I'll just like watch random episodes. But like,
okay, I've seen every episode. It's one of the greatest things ever created. Yeah, I'll send it. You'll appreciate that.
I mean, I'm thinking about The Ringer, and I'm sure I get the gist of the South Park episode.
Johnny Knoxville style. Yeah, that was Johnny Knoxville, right?
Yeah.
Similar. Yeah, similar. I think that episode came out before The Ringer, though.
Yeah, okay.
South Park always trailblazes that.
MJ Heitling said the same thing.
What, The Ringer?
Yeah.
You guys look that up and let me know. I think that came out before The Ringer, but besides the point, Dame's a monster. I know that he's very expensive today. I know his price is rivaling that now of Jokic and Luka and coming close to Giannis, but we only have one full game with him on and Simons off. Dude, I don't know. Do we not still look at Dame even with this increased price point and go, he's just absolutely dominant right now?
I mean, I think you do. Like, we have him. He's the second highest projected player on the slate behind Luka. And I think you could argue that gap between Luka and Dame's probably, maybe is a little bit big. But you're getting huge playing time from him as well. So that's the other thing. Like when we talked about John Morant, obviously different price point, but when we talked about John Morant, it was like, the one negative to him. Yeah, he's a good point per minute guy, but typically he's giving you like 33, 34 minutes. With Dame, he's giving you 38 to 40 if the game's competitive. You have what should be a very high scoring game here. 235.5 total, 4-point spread. He's playing without Nurkic. He's playing without Simons. I mean, this is a team that instead of Nurkic and Simons is going to be starting Drew Eubanks and like Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish. Like these guys are just zero usage. It's Lillard and then Grant and nothing. So it's really tough. Even though the price tag's elevated, things have changed. It's not. This is not the same as like what we were talking about a few years ago, where Dame became 11,500 just because he was shooting 80% from 3 every night. This is Dame becoming this expensive because he's playing without Nurkic. He's playing without Simons. He is this team's entire offense, and he's playing nearly 40 minutes in competitive games. So there's actual reason for the price tag to have increased. And, like I said, second highest projected guy on the slate in our projections behind Luka. He's 500 less than Luka. I think the price tag honestly is deserved, and I still think I'll end up getting to him.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to.
He's played 395 minutes, 815 possessions this year without Simons or Nurkic on the floor. He has a 42.4% usage rate, and he has a 37.4% assist percentage. yes, it's only 395 minutes, but those are Luka Doncic without Kyrie Irving-esque rates.
Yeah.
And if Luka without Kyrie were 11-5, you'd just be jamming him into as many lineups as you can. So, I mean, I think it's, again, like those rates could change a little bit. But one thing I like when I see that, it's not like you're talking about a 42% usage rate, but the assist percentage is at like 25%. And
where
you're
everything is just straight
you're likely to see it like balance out. The assist percentage is near 40%. The usage rate's over 40%. He's just accounting for like every offensive possession, basically. So I don't care. Yeah, he's averaged 1.8 DraftKings points per minute in that sample. I don't care about that too much because he has a 71.9% true shooting percentage, which is just batshit crazy on 42% usage to have that true shooting percentage. But that's going to come down, which is going to lower the per minute production. So you shouldn't look at it and say like, oh yeah, Dame's a 1.8 fantasy point per minute guy without Simons and Nurk. But those rates, there's no reason those rates have to change.
He had 93 touches last game. No one else had more than 40.
I think they put up a stat during that. I think it was that game. I was watching some game the other day. I think it was that one. And they actually, no, it was something else because I didn't watch that game. I was watching a game the other day and they mentioned somebody like leading the league in touches over the last like month. And I meant to show it to you because I knew that you would love it.
Yeah, that stuff interests me just to know how involved they are. It's usually Luka or Jokic. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Dame still had double-digit potential assists last game. Like you said, with 38 field goal attempts and 14 free throws. So,
yeah.
It's through the roof. Anyway, anybody else for Portland then?
No, not really. I mean, Matisse
always go back to Matisse Thybulle. That's
right. Like Matisse Thybulle's cheap. He's also Matisse Thybulle. Jeremy
terrible.
Grant has a nice role carved out here if he wants to show up and play well. My dad actually ran into Jeremy Grant's dad at a bar the other day. I asked him next time he sees him if he could ask him to stop costing me so much fucking money.
How did he know it was his dad?
Because he's like 6'8" and played in the NBA and told him he was Harvey Grant.
Oh, okay. He told him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Well, I guess your dad's older, right? But
well, I mean, like he didn't recognize him. So it was.
That's what I meant.
Oh yeah,
like,
no. It was
what I meant.
A mutual friend.
Wasn't like, oh my God, that's Harvey Grant.
No. A mutual, a friend my dad was out with, had met him. Like he frequents this bar regularly, semi-regularly apparently. And my dad's friend had already met him there, so he knew who he was. And
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
I
will say though, Thybulle, like as much as I shit on this guy, he did still play another 36 minutes last game. Like he is really cheap. So, I don't want to act like it's not possible for him to have a decent game at almost minimum salary.
Yeah. And I mean, he's getting 7% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. The minutes are there. The salary is good. It's just a matter of, does he knock down the random threes that he takes and does he pick up steals? Because if not, and if not, you're in a lot of trouble. But Dame's the clear priority here. I think you get to a little Thybulle, a little Grant. That's fine. Cam Reddish is whatever at 4,500, but Dame's clearly the piece that you really want.
How about for the Golden State Warriors here? I mean, Dante DiVincenzo, Wiggins is still out. Curry's out. For those of you guys that are wondering, Draymond Green's probable. Are there spots here to key in on?
Not a ton. I like the $5,400 price tag on DiVincenzo. You're just getting a lot of playing time from him. Played 38 minutes last game. I don't think you expect that, but if he just plays like 34 or somewhere around there, he's going to project as a good option at 5,400. The upside that you get from Clay and Poole, neither of them are getting much ownership. So they are good tournament plays, but the reason they're not getting a ton of ownership is just that there are players at their positions and or price points that project a bit better. So it kind of just pushes them to being secondary options. But I think DiVincenzo is probably the most useful guy to get to here. Shooting guard, small forward helps a lot. I like the Clay and Poole upside in tournaments. But other than that, not really much of anything.
Okay. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing before you guys go. I had a couple DMs yesterday asking if we had any promos for people that might have already been at Prize Picks or whatever. We do have 50% off the entire month, any package, any subscription for the month. That link is down there in the description. Jordan, before we go, just throw that in chat too. It's in the description. But if you were looking to get access to our tools, maybe you're already on Prize Picks, right? Maybe you've already explored other avenues. 50% off any monthly package or weekly package. So if you just want to do a week, a month, one sport, all sports, whatever. It's 50% off. You have to use the link though in order for it to track it. But yeah, 50% off that as well. This is a fun show. Good stuff, man. Not bad. Hour 15 for us for 10 games.
No, not bad at all. I'm reading Terry's like Wikipedia page about The Ringer and South Park now.
I looked at chat and I saw just like all T McBee on there, and I just took up the whole thing. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Terry McBride, ladies and gentlemen. Jordan Klein producing the show. Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Me at Doffy_D. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Deeper Dive Live Before Lock tonight. And the Odd Shop on the Odd Shopper channel. Ben Ross and myself, we had a blast yesterday. Thanks to you guys for hanging out. Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down all the best bets and giving you a peek behind all of our most powerful betting tools as well for free every day on that show. So come hang with us before you head over to the Deeper Dive. Peace.